Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's 5 minutes past 5. So let's start, 5 minutes past 3, I'm sorry. So let's start this session, this interactive session of 2 hours between the OneNet project and the Bridge initiative. So my name is Helena Gerard from Vito Energyville. I'm hosting this session together with my colleagues Jacob and Janka, and together with the colleagues from Eredes, Madalena, and Carlos. So thank you very much for joining. And before we go to the active part of the session, let's give you a brief introduction of what we're planning to do and what was the origin of the work that came. So what can you expect? 30 minutes of introduction, and that gives you a bit of flavor of why are those coordinated and integrated markets, why is it important? What was the research already done? And what came out? And then second, we have two, I would say, separate sub-workshops, one on market design, the second one on interoperability. They will be hosted in different break rooms, and there we will go more in depth on some of the conclusions that came out of the OneNet project, that we would like to challenge with other stakeholders to capture different perspectives. And those perspectives are both part of the work that we will do within the Bridge action, but also are a direct input for the roadmap that the OneNet project is about to finish in the coming weeks. So thank you very much. Let's go maybe first for those who don't know OneNet, give you a very short introduction. So OneNet is, I would say, the final project in the big sequence of projects related to TSO consumer interaction. In total, 72 partners are joining this project. It had an EU contribution of 22 million euros. It was a 4-year project in the end, and it's about to finish end of March. So the fact that it's, so next slide, please. So yeah, it's about to finish. So that means we have a roadmap to deliver, and that's why we need you. But to make sure that we really can capture your views, let's have a first test if the Mentimeter is working and that everybody knows how to work with it, but also that we know who is joining this session. So first active moment of today. Grab your phone and let's see what it tells us. Okay, so first question, and important to know, if we discuss on European market design, do we actually have a true European representation? For now, there is still some over-representation of Belgium, so but it's clear that when the answers are coming in, I think half of the people already answered, so we need those 24 others as well, that indeed it starts already to highlight that we have several perspectives that will be part of our discussion. Okay, we still have a bit more than half of the people who answered. So for those others, try as well. That would be important also for the next questions, that we have sufficient representation. In case that there are questions on the Mentimeter or when it's not working, you can also put the questions in the chat and we'll try to help you or to support. Okay, that looks already quite good. Shall we move to the second question? And then for those who were not yet within the Mentimeter, try to launch it. So that would be interesting and necessary also for the follow-up questions. So this is also to know, because there are some partners from projects, to know a bit from which demonstrator, from which part of the OneNet project, or from which other bridge project or bridge initiative you are joining. Okay, that's also nice to see that we have obviously quite some participants who are coming from OneNet, but interesting that also several other projects actually also join. And also some people who like jokes, but that's good. We can have a good atmosphere in the workshop. Okay, come on. We're with 48 people here, so that means 48 answers. Or maybe 44 for those who are on the train and where the connection is not good, but that means that we need a bit more. That's so that's already better than the previous question. Okay, even better. So keep that up. There is a prize if you reach the 40. Oh, okay, thank you very much. I think that was already a necessary step to see that we have a good representation of different projects, but also of different backgrounds and different topics. That means that we are now fully ready and fully fledged to continue with the real content part of this workshop. In the meantime, you can still continue to answer questions. Okay, there was, I'm sorry, there still was one remaining question. We also wanted to see what is the background of everybody who is in here. So not only the projects, but as there will be some questions on roles, responsibilities, and perspectives, this is also something which is important. And we see that there are a lot of people who want to stay hidden. So we have a lot of curious visitors. Now I'm very curious who are those curious visitors, but that's okay. Okay, good. When people are still answering, it was clear that we do have half of the representatives will be probably system operators, and half of them will come more from the research area. So that's interesting. We will talk about that later, but just tell you a little bit more on OneNet. So OneNet, 15 demonstrators organized in 4 clusters. They are grouped across the whole of Europe. We have multiple TSOs and TSOs within the different clusters. And the idea is that some of the innovations on market design and interoperability that we will present to you today, they're tested in those different demos. Next slide. What is also very particular in the OneNet project is that we have GRIFOn. What is GRIFOn? It's a platform where OneNet tries to reach out to different stakeholders, European stakeholders that can be TSOs, DSOs, can be regulators, aggregators, people from manufacturing, but also even consumers. The idea is that OneNet discusses the conclusions along the way, that we get feedback, and that somehow jointly OneNet is coming to conclusions that are already supported by the views of many stakeholders. That's of course something which fits perfectly also in the context of Bridge, and that's why we have this joint workshop today. Next slide. And that's indeed mentioned here as well. So where OneNet tries to group findings from different demonstrators, but also insights from different stakeholders, within Bridge, we have a similar approach, but there multiple projects share knowledge and also try to get to a certain consensus on a specific topic. Typically, for the topic here, energy and flexibility market coordination, this is both an action within Bridge, but it's also the main topic here of our workshop, where we look at the coordination and integration part at both market design and interoperability. Next slide. To give you just a short background on the Bridge initiative, and in particular the Action 3, which is also jointly organizing this session here. So the Action 3 is related to the energy and flexibility market coordination and integration. The idea is there that we look at all the different barriers that exist today, why energy and flexibility markets are not yet fully harmonized or fully integrated at the European level. And that obviously for those different barriers that we formulate some best practices coming from projects. So some can come from OneNet, but several will come from other projects, and that we provide policy recommendations. And in particular for this action, the policy recommendations should be an input for the network code on demand side flexibility, but also for the reform of the EU electricity market design. Next slide. Then back to OneNet. To understand OneNet, it's easy to think about it as a three-pillar project. So first pillar, the definition of a common market design for Europe. Second pillar, goal is there, the definition of a common IT architecture and common IT interfaces. And the third pillar is definition also of a unified vision on consumer centricity. Those three pillars all together are done at a um, research level, but then they're verified in very large field tests. So this is, I would say, the overall structure of OneNet. How did we use this overall structure to move further on the topics of market design and interoperability? That's on the next slide. Because that's indeed the goal. The goal of OneNet is how can we achieve those consumer-centric, coordinated, and integrated EU market? And there are indeed 8 objectives that the OneNet solutions try to achieve. You see on the left again, those 3 pillars, consumer, market, and IT. And if we then think about OneNet, we have on the one hand coordination, which means we need to make sure that all building blocks of the energy market are nicely modeled in a way that they coordinate in an easy and efficient way. On the right, we have integration, where we also want that those different building blocks are not only integrated or not only talking to each other, but that we can also have a maximum number of stakeholders, flexibility, all being part of the same coordinated and integrated market. If we then look what that means in practice, so for the coordination part, we want to have markets being well coordinated so that the flexibility coming from consumers can be offered to multiple services in multiple markets so that we can increase the value that's coming from that flexibility. Coordination also means at the market level that the different market processes are well organized, that the timing is well fit, so that it all operates and works smoothly. But coordination is also happening at the level of the IT, where we see process standardization and other technological infrastructure that in case it's coordinated, you also achieve interoperability and smooth integration of novel services. If we then look at the right side of the slide, there we see a similar story. From the consumer perspective, integration is important to make sure that all flexibility service providers with different technologies can join. Secondly, we also want at the level of a market that there is a same level playing field, so that if you integrate multiple actors, that there are no issues related to market power or gaming, but also you want to make sure that typically cybersecurity and privacy are guaranteed when you have multiple novel actors joining your system. And finally, even if you want to integrate several new actors, business models, and services into one integrated market, coordination and stakeholder participation is key. So these are the 8 objectives that OneNet would like to achieve. How did we do? Well, how did we do that in the project? But most important, The project OneNet will provide a specific set of solutions to achieve those objectives. But it's clear that if you want to achieve certain objectives, it means that you need to remove the barriers. The barriers that exist today why those objectives are not yet achieved. But that's not something that we will tell you immediately. More interesting is also to hear from you before we will go more in depth into the different topics. What are, according to you, the most important barriers for market design? So that means, again, an active part of this workshop. We see already several answers coming in, which is interesting. I don't want to become too enthusiastic, but for several of those barriers, indeed, those are the ones that we also addressed in the in the OneNet project and also in the Bridge initiative. So that's interesting. We have already 31 responses. I would say the final 10 seconds to answer. And then we see quite some answers coming back related to consumers. We also saw a lot of questions that were linked to the lack of a clear, stable regulatory framework. Even some people mentioned the lack of a network code. Then a third big group of questions was related to more technical aspects of data, data quality, data interoperability, but also data infrastructure. And then we even see here quite some elements that link to the business model as a fourth category, that the business use cases are not really there, but also that the value of the business use case is not sufficient. So that's good, or that's not good. It means that we still need a lot of things to tackle. By the way, maybe just between brackets, the answers of those questions will be shared, obviously, with different participants. So you will get the full overview of answers. But yeah, these were the answers related to market design. And I think we saw already that some of them are actually probably even barriers for interoperability, such as data quality. But let's see whether that's correct, this assumption. And we would also like to ask you to have a similar question to tell us what are, according to you, the most prominent barriers for interoperability. They can be the same, in case that you consider that what you answered before is also valid here, that's perfect. Okay, see that the answer are also coming in. Maybe Madalena, I would like to ask you if you see already some elements popping up that you will definitely treat also in the next part of the workshop.
No, there are several ones. For instance, when we speak about standardization of lack of data standard in technology, so this is something that is obviously highly included in the barriers that we've already identified, and also regarding the technological adaptations. One thing that's also really highlighted is, for example, the costs for this technological adaptation. So this is also something really well included into analysis, and of course regulatory issues. So I think that in the end this reflects really well, but we will of course address these barriers with a bit more emphasis on our side, but it's a good compilation.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that kind of before I give the floor also to my colleague Jacob, but it's clear that if you look at the different barriers that were pitched, that one element also becomes clear, that interoperability and market design, although there are two distinct elements, they actually have a lot in common. And what happens on one side will have an impact or an implication on the other side. And I would say this is also the core or the reason why within OneNet we have taken both approaches or both elements as priority in the roadmap design, but also why we have done this joint initiative together with Bridge, as the regulatory elements are relevant for both market design and interoperability. Then I would like to give now the floor to my colleague Jacob, who will give you a very first insight on how we have tackled the solutions within OneNet.
Okay, thank you, Helena. So within OneNet, obviously it is a very large project spanning numerous countries, over 70 entities, and 4 years of study. So it has generated a number of solutions to help organize and better understand the impacts they have. We have organized them into separate thematic areas or topics that help group them by common themes, essentially. So within this, we have these 12 different topics, 8 of which are related to market design. So you have market participation and consumer engagement, product services, all the way through market operation processes such as pre-qualification, procurement, and settlement and baselining. And then amongst interoperability, you have topics related to data management, technical components, and guidelines and process mapping. These each relate to all of the objectives that Helena presented earlier. And you can see that there is a significant spread of which solutions and topics tackle which objectives and the barriers associated with those directly. So within the market design specifically, we have these 8 topics. So the first is market participation and consumer engagement. This one focuses on tackling the barriers that are currently limiting stakeholder engagement while also improving a consumer-centric market design. The next is products and services. This one addresses new flexible services and innovative products as they're developed for the growing market as we increase renewable energy sources and electrification of the grid. Roles and responsibilities addresses any solutions that come from the new roles that need to be developed, as well as redefining existing roles as these new market operations and platforms are implemented. TSO and DSO coordination schemes. This one basically focuses on things that help facilitate the coordination between DSO and TSO entities, so that way they operate a little bit more efficiently. Pre-qualification, this one focuses specifically on the part of the market that pre-qualifies different services and products. How can we simplify that and streamline it? Procurement makes it a more of a market-based approach for any sort of procurement of flexibility, so that way we're doing it in a cost-efficient manner. Settlement and baselining focuses on how are baselines defined and what methodologies are used, so that way settlement processes are both fair and equal. And then SO needs, which address specifically the needs of the system operators and how well they can be better measured and forecasted, essentially. So of these 8 that we have just presented for the market operation, if we could just please have you, oops, I clicked and I should have gone back. Let's go back. There we go. If we could just have you please answer this question of which one is the most important for innovation, basically which one requires the most innovation. Dang it, it is not working. There we go. Okay, now you should be able to access it. And we'll give a couple more minutes for this so people can actually organize all 8 of them. Yeah. Okay, it looks like so far people are saying that coordination and consumer engagement are probably the most important responsibilities or areas that we need to provide innovation to, followed by roles, products, and the needs of the SOs, while market operation procedures are probably the lowest in priority for innovation. Up next, we will have Madalena present the interoperability side of these topics.
Thank you, Jacob. But this part is for Carlos. Carlos, for this introduction, please.
Yeah, I'll present this
Please
first
go
slide
on.
and then pass
Yeah.
you the word. Just to Carlos Silva from eRedes, and also with the role of OneNet technical manager. But as Helena explained in the beginning, we divided this into market and interoperability pillars, or at least the interoperability is a critical pillar of the work that OneNet is doing. And within the interoperability, we have defined 4 core objectives, which sort of segment the solutions that were developed on mostly work package 4, 5, and 6, which are the, let's say, the more technical and development-oriented work packages in terms of software and more material solutions. The first category is process standardization. This means within this category, we are placing the solutions that empower stakeholders to fulfill and follow predefined reference processes that are coming up at the European level. It does not provide new processes, but it provides the stakeholders with the tools to complete them. Then we have cybersecurity and privacy, which is an overarching topic always present in the developments that were done in OneNet. Technological enablement and exploitation. In here, we look at the solutions that were developed and we explore how they can empower stakeholders to exchange data, and also how these solutions can be exploited at a more industrial level. And lastly, stakeholder participation and coordination. As you know, OneNet brings together a great number of DSOs, TSOs, and market parties and research institutions, and therefore is a forum to improve this collaboration. And also we build some tools that foster this collaboration and communication between the parties to have the primary objective materialized, which is a single European network. We took these objectives and drafted some enablers and barriers and some recommendations that we think make sense to explore, and this is where we will focus our work then in the dedicated session. Now I pass the word on to Madalena to explain a little bit more how these objectives are structured.
Jacob, can you pass? Exactly. Thank you. Okay, so Carlos explained that we focused on several work packages to compile the information necessary for this work. Namely, it's not only for 5 and 6. We also extended for the conclusions, let's say, that are within work package 11. So work package 11 is the work package that aims to gather the main results entire project, and basically it's also the work package where all of this work of the OneNet roadmap is inserted. And we've analyzed several deliverables from all of these work packages, as you can see here, and we've identified from all of these deliverables what are the solutions that are included there. And to structure the work in the first stage, what we did is to split between the objectives of interoperability and also the types of solutions or categories of solutions that we encountered. And as Carlos mentioned, so we have the process standardization, cybersecurity and privacy, technological enablement and exploitation, and then stakeholder participation coordination. Considering these objectives, we mapped with the categories that you can see on the left-hand side, so operation guidelines, process mapping, the data management and governance, interoperability and standards, and technological components, more specifically, specific softwares developed. And in the first stage, what we did is to extract the solutions from these deliverables and map them within these metrics. And in the first stage, what you can see is you have, so we found a big relevance on, for example, cybersecurity and privacy, more specifically on the operation guidelines and process mapping. So this is, of course, related to the several recommendations that OneNet gathers in the deliverables. This especially within work package 4 and also work package 11, that both of them include a lot of recommendations on cybersecurity. So this is something that we've extracted quite in a massive volume within this analysis. And there are also aspects regarding the interoperability and standards and technological components, especially regarding process standardization, cybersecurity, and also technological enablement and exploitation. We can see also here some gaps that we found from this initial analysis, more specifically in the interoperability and standards for cybersecurity. There were no specific standards produced for that, and that is of course something that was to be expected. And then also on technological components for process standardization and stakeholder participation coordination. This is just an initial view. This analysis was then complemented by a deeper analysis on several solutions that were gathered, also with inputs from the demos. And this is something that we will explore in our group activity for interoperability. Yes, but that's it from my side. Jacob.
Okay, and just like we did with the market design one, we'll ask the same question of if you could just please rank one or all of these with the highest priority. And as soon as the Menti is open, you will be able to do so. There we go. We'll just take a couple seconds here for people to rank these. Excellent. Okay, it looks like people are pretty consistent with the first one being interoperability and standards, and then a nice little race between data management and operation guidelines and process mapping. All right, I think with 19 responses, that's sufficient for now. We'll move on with this, and then whenever we get to the actual workshop for the discussion specifically about market design and interoperability, we hope to increase the amount of responses to everyone who's participating. All right, now I will be passing it along to my colleague Janka to discuss how or what exactly we will be hoping to get from you.
Yes, thank you, Jacob. So as discussed previously, OneNet is tackling a number of objectives through the OneNet key solutions, which were presented by Jacob and Carlos and Madalena. Now, the core of the workshops will be discussing those solutions, but more specifically to zoom in on what are barriers and what are enablers for the implementation of those solutions. And that's what you can see in the yellow boxes on this slide. So OneNet developed solutions, but in order for those solutions to succeed, they need to be implemented successfully. And that means that the barriers that block their implementation should be removed, and that the enablers that can facilitate their implementation should be strengthened. And so that's where OneNet came in with the roadmap to provide actually, well, to summarize and already get a first idea on what are the enablers and the barriers. And we set up a roadmap where we have recommendations on how these enablers and these barriers can be facilitated or how they can be removed, indicating also at which level intervention is needed. Is it at local level, at country level, at European level? Should it be done in the short run, long run, medium run, etc.? And in order to do so, we already had some workshops, but we also would like to have your input on that. So we developed we collected on a first set of enablers and barriers. We had a first set of recommendations on how to continue, how to boost the rollout of the OneNet solutions. We already had some inputs from TSOs, DSOs, etc. But we also need your inputs to check, like from your perspective, the ideas that we were having in OneNet. Do they align with your ideas? Do you have other opinions? What should we not forget? So that's the whole idea of today. Actually, we gave you an introduction on like the two core topics, the market design and interoperability. And so in what's coming up next, the idea is to split this group actually into a group that wants to give more inputs on the market design, and in a group that wants to give more inputs on the interoperability part. And so the idea now is that, yeah, we will split into those two groups. But before we do the split, we also want to highlight that after the workshop, some of you might already have received our public consultation. But after the workshop, you can always check out our public consultation, which is a document where we already summarize all enablers and barriers with the recommendations. And if you scan the QR codes, which are currently on the slide, the left one, so the market design QR code, will bring you to the public consultation on the market design, sorry. And the right one will bring you to the public consultation for the interoperability part. And so if you want more information, you can scan through it. If you disagree with certain things or you want to give feedback, there are email addresses in the documents where you can send your responses to. And we are really glad to receive any feedback. So if you have something to say, even if it is just on one specific topic and not on the whole document, we are very glad to receive that. So I think right now, somebody will take over to explain what the link is. It should be put in the chat, if I'm correct, to which link you should go next. And then, yes, there you go. Thank you, Daniela. So the link where everybody has to go to is in the chat, and there you will be referred to the different breakout rooms. So you can leave this meeting by clicking on that room, and then there you will have to choose between the market design breakout room and the interoperability breakout room.